I remember my very first tour of Northern America with my British band. I had done one or two concerts. I'd opened for an artist called Phil Keaggy before. I'd worked with a guy called Russ Taff. But this was the very first tour where I would just be headlining with my band from Britain. I was so excited about it. And the guys were amazing. Most of them were married, but their wives, were really, we prayed over them that God would take care of them while the guys were on the road. And the tour was very successful. But on the very last day, I realized that the tour promoter had run off with all the money and hadn't paid anyone. He hadn't paid the sound guys or the lighting guys, or he hadn't paid the band. And I called him and I said, how can you do this? You claim to be a believer. And he said, what are you going to do? Sue me. If you do, I'll just file for bankruptcy and I'll start up tomorrow and under a new name. I was honestly devastated. I flew home and I sold the house I had in London because I was determined that the guys who had worked for me would not suffer because of this other person. So I was able to pay the band and the lighting and pay the sound guys. I actually moved in with my pastor and his wife for 2 years. I just told them I was coming for the weekend, but it extended. But one of the greatest lessons that God taught me about that was that I had to deal with this anger and unforgiveness I had. And at one point, I felt as if God said to me, Sheila, I want you to give me the money. Don't make it that this person has taken it from you. I want you to give it to me as an offering, which I did. And I thought it was a closed book until a couple of years later, I found myself at a Christian festival and suddenly I saw this person walk toward me and our eyes made contact and I could tell he was horrified to see me. And he turned and he went in the opposite direction. And I was overwhelmed by the feelings of anger that were still there. I actually dropped to my knees in the grass and I said, Lord, I thought I'd let this go. And he said, Sheila, what you did was you brought me the debt, but you never brought me the debtor. And so in that moment, I stopped and I lifted this man up to Christ and forgave him. And I realized that I was kneeling on something that was hurting me, and it was this. It was a little rock. It was probably 25 years ago. I kept it with me because it reminds me of a powerful truth. Let she who is without sin cast the first stone. There's so much in life, so much in your life that is unfair. But do you realize that forgiveness is God's gift to us to live in a world that's not fair? Fair doesn't live here, but Jesus does. And when you choose to forgive, you are the one that's set free. And the enemy has nothing in his arsenal to combat forgiveness. It's really God's secret weapon.